Teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the show. Welcome to the #1 show on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Looking forward to having you back for more. To my regular listeners, as promised, as the guarantee for this show, we are bringing, whether it's just myself or it's a guest, we're bringing you something that's going to make you just a little bit better, give you the nudge that you need, just flip something in you that's going to have a positive effect on your life. And I cannot wait to dive into this gentleman's story. His name is Ken Attard, and we're going to be speaking all about the importance of mindset in regards to entrepreneurship. He has a brand, a company, a framework that teaches you all about the mindset, and his story is actually a testament of the importance of mindset when you're going out when it comes to entrepreneurial ventures. So, Ken, welcome to the show. How are you?
Absolutely awesome. It's a pleasure to be here, and I am really excited to actually share the information with your listeners.
Yes,
Really looking forward to it.
you have a ton of information. Actually, I was listening to you on a previous show. You've had situations in which you've started businesses and they have failed, and you've done so much. One of my favorite things too, actually, is when you were talking about your time in network marketing and how so much of it was about just the mindset piece and not necessarily the product piece. So, we're going to get into all of that, but I think it's best to kind of just start where your background is, kind of where you grew up, and how did you transition that transition from childhood to adulthood and things like that. So I'll give you the microphone to speak on that.
Sure, absolutely, man. Yeah, how much time do we have?
No, you don't have limits. You don't have limits here, man. Do it.
Yeah, well, so I was born in Toronto, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And hence that's why I still speak with this accent. For those of you who think it's an accent. So yeah, I lived there till I was 14. My parents are both Maltese. So just to give people a bit of a background, my parents are both Maltese, and they had emigrated to Canada. I was born there. And at the age of 14, my parents decided they wanted to move back to Malta. And that was, and I'm still here today. So I am still based on the island of Malta, and essentially it's because I do love it.
Right.
You were talking about transitions. That was a really interesting transition in my life.
Yeah, because
Without
14
a
is
doubt.
that age, you're in high
Yeah.
school, you're developing friends. So, just having a
Yeah,
move is different.
absolutely. And on top of that, on top of that, I was an avid hockey player.
Oh man, they took the hockey dog. Come on, man.
So, man, and I moved to an island that does not have ice.
Hey, that's what I was gonna say. Like, do they have ice where you're at? Like,
No,
come
no, the
on.
ice rink was non-existent.
Right.
So we're talking 19. So I moved here in 1979. So there's 1979. I headed out. So not only that, because like nowadays it wouldn't be as bad a transition, if you'd like to call it, but going back 1979, no internet.
Right.
So I was literally cut off from that world completely. Like I missed the whole era. Like I'm pretty up to date now.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty up to date now, yet I missed the whole era. Like I missed a good 20 years
Mm-hmm.
for the most part until I sort of really got back into it. So, that transition there in that sense, partly,
Mm-hmm.
and on top of that as well, was academics was a big transition as well, because the academic level here in Malta, believe it or not, was actually higher than the academic level in Canada,
I could believe that.
Toronto.
I had
So
my parents are from the Caribbean islands to Trinidad and Tobago, and they would tell me all the time it's a different beast when it comes
it's
to academics
yeah,
like that.
it is. It is. It's very like academic, or so when it came to extracurricular activities and that, they were there, but
Mhm.
those are on the side. Like the thing that's important is the academics. I mean,
Right.
so that was definitely a transition. I went from a co-ed school to an all boys school. I
Mhm.
went from going to school in whatever I wanted to dress in,
Right.
jeans and t-shirt, to having to wear a uniform. And I,
Right.
I remember I was like, "You're kidding me! I'm wearing a brown uniform here with a polka dot tie. Like this is just
I
like,
know. Yeah, my high school, I had to make the same transition to school uniforms.
yeah, and it was all boys. 14, the hormones are running, right? So it's like, where'd the girls go? Like, it's what's
Exactly.
going on here? So
Exactly.
those were interesting transitions. I mean, there were great learning experiences as
Yeah,
well,
that's
without
what I
it.
was gonna tell you.
As
Like, yeah, as an adult, those things, because you don't want to have to go through those things. Wait till you're an adult to go through those things, because now you kind of
Yeah,
have a mental block. So
It also, yeah,
all
it
of this
also
makes sense.
yeah, absolutely. And it also taught me very quickly to, um, I had a choice, I was one of, I think two, at the time, two foreigners in the school I was in.
Hmm.
And, and I learned very quickly to play the humble card.
Yeah.
Because some people play that, I'm the foreigner, and want to be the big shot sort of thing, and that I learned very quickly to play the humble card, which helped me to make friends much quicker,
Yeah.
and to understand that like I'm not better than anybody, really, truly at
Exactly.
all.
Exactly. Those,
And
and I hate to pause you on that point because
that's okay.
a lot of the things I deal with, work wise, is when you form these cliques, ultimately that leads to your demise because you're so focused on forming a clique or being with a clique that the production loses in the workplace. So people
Yeah,
that come humble, understanding that, hey, this job is a privilege, or even playing hockey is a privilege, not a right. Now there's a level of work ethic there that leads to results, that leads to actual production, which is what,
yeah,
and primarily the people that listen to the show are business owners. Those are the kind
yeah.
of people that you need to be, and you need to be hiring, not the clicky forming things, because ultimately that's what's going to be the demise of your business.
Absolutely. You're going to be wanting to look for people who have a particular type of attitude without a doubt.
Yes.
And the willingness, like the willingness to learn. Like that was another transition. So for those of you who don't like, although my parents were Maltese,
Hmm.
we were living in Canada, they made it a point that my English was going to be good English.
Right.
Right. So I hadn't learned the Maltese language. Malta actually has its own language.
Hmm.
So, I mean, everybody speaks English, yet I had to start learning that language.
Hmm.
For even for me to advance in school and to be able to further my studies to a certain level, I had to learn the language, which I did manage to. I mean, again, I was surrounded by it, so I'm hearing it more. It makes it easier.
Right.
Yet still, it has its challenges. Not the easiest of languages either. But funnily enough, while I was entering high school,
Hmm.
um, one of I managed to get my Maltese. I passed my Maltese exam and the exams I needed to get into. Let's say it's the in between university and high school. So from high school here, they go to what they call it a sixth form. So it's like 2 years where you focus on a couple of subjects in particular, and then from there you go to university. But to
Right.
get into this sixth form, which is like pre-university, um, during my time, they actually made then as well, at that time, they made Arabic compulsory. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. I just dealt with Maltese and I got through it. And now you're going to make this compulsory for me. I
Hmm.
was like, oh, talk about a slap in the face. That's
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
felt
that's a
like,
lot. Right, it's a lot.
But again, and intertwining this with entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
it's because we are going to at some point you are going to face some challenges potentially sometimes, and it's learning. For me, one of the biggest things for entrepreneurs when I work with them is getting them to understand that the challenges, you can deal with a challenge and look at it from a framework of suffering, of sacrifice, of struggle, of stress. You can look at it from there, and this is what's taught most of the time. And this is a really important factor that I want to get through here
Hmm.
for those who are listening, because most people as an entrepreneur are taught that you're going to face struggle, you're going to face sacrifice, you're going to face all these things. But that, just because you're taught that, doesn't necessarily mean it's the truth. And what do I mean by that? So you can face it like that and say this is struggle, or you can look at it and you say, okay, how can I get through this, yet at the same time look at it, what I'm going to learn, and actually enjoy the process
Hmm.
and still enjoy the journey. And if there was one thing that I believe is so vital for entrepreneurs to understand, is that if there's anything you want to be doing in your entrepreneurial journey,
Right.
it's enjoying the process.
Right.
It is useless.
Yeah.
It defies the purpose of really living your life,
Hmm.
of having a unjoyful journey towards whatever it is you want to achieve. Because if you are having this unjoyful journey, if you're always portraying things as, oh, I need to sacrifice this and I need to struggle through this, you're essentially pushing your goals, whatever it is you want to achieve, you're actually pushing them further away. It's going to take you longer. Yes, you can arrive through sheer determination. You
Hmm.
can. There's a good chance you will. It's just a longer process and it's not as much fun.
Right. And it's also worth mentioning too, because like you, I attended a lot of different types of schools. I started out public school, then I got recruited to go to a Catholic school, and then I played football at a small Division 2 small liberal arts college, tore my
Yeah.
ACL, then had to go to a community college while I worked, and then went to a big public university, then went online. None of these schools talked about entrepreneurship. None of these schools talked about financial literacy. And even listening to your story, the amount of schools that you went, this self-development stuff, entrepreneurship has to be learned through life experiences. And like you were mentioning, like I said, I was listening to you, you had to start businesses and fold. You have lived through what you just said in terms of, all right, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur and I'm going to struggle. This is all part of the process when you realize it doesn't have to be like that. I believe it was Steve Jobs who said, you got to love it. You got to love every single element of your entrepreneurial journey so you can keep going, because there will be pitfalls and everybody won't see your vision as clearly as you see your vision. So, with that, can you kind of speak on some of the I guess the lessons, I don't want to call them failures, but the lessons that you learned, through network marketing and or the shops that you started and had to close
Yeah.
down and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, network marketing, without a doubt. So, fast forwarding,
Mhm.
network marketing was the introduction for me to personal development.
Yes.
As I think it is for a lot of people, believe it or not. If there's one phenomenal aspect about network
Yeah,
marketing, that's it.
it is.
That because it just like all of a sudden you're listening to speakers, now
Uh-huh.
how people go about it and all that, that's a whole different thing.
Let me tell you,
Yeah,
I was convinced that I can go. I used to do Cutco marketing, the knife selling business. That was my first one. I was convinced that I can go out and sell at least a couple $100,000 in kitchen knives because of just
yeah,
this something. It was a new concept to me. It was when I was
yeah.
in the community. It's like, man, I can go out and sell. Forget a job. I'm about to do this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was a phenomenal period. And believe it or not, so I'm on a very small island. So I'm on an island that's 120 square miles.
Right.
We now have, about 500,000 in population. And at one point in time in my network marketing team, I had about 10,000 people.
Okay. Good.
So
That's
we were
you
growing
were
like
good. Yeah, you were good.
we were growing, and now okay, and then it tends to, people drop out then and all this.
Right.
Yet the real cool lessons in this was like I bump into people nowadays still 20 years later who tell me, Ken, that was such a great time. I learned so much during that time, and it's helped me so much in my life.
Exactly.
Because now I've opened this business or I've done this, so it was just a really phenomenal period. For me, it was great because I started to listen to these speakers. I started to hear, still listening to CDs at that point in time,
Oh, yeah, that's when
and and all that stuff, right? And I was like, this is really cool stuff. And like you said, I was like, how come they don't teach us this stuff in school? Why don't they teach us this personal development stuff in school? What's going on here? And that was an inspiration for me to continue to teach. And the nature of the business meant I was getting in front of people weekly and regularly and in front of big groups of people.
Mhm.
And I enjoyed it. I felt comfortable. I felt I had no problem in speaking in front of people and enjoying it. And I
Right.
just carried on and I carried on learning and despite then, I got out of network marketing eventually and opened other businesses
Right.
and through those businesses had challenges without a doubt and learned a lot from them. You know, I'd say one of the biggest lessons to learn when it comes to entrepreneurship
Mhm.
is without a doubt is understanding about your beliefs and what you truly believe in and understanding that, you know, if you really want to have freedom in your life, one of the components that I've discovered that is absolutely vital is that you come to a point where, and I'll explain this, that you really don't care about what you think other people could potentially be thinking about you or believe about you. Now, what do I mean by that? That doesn't mean that I wouldn't take the advice of someone that I felt could potentially give me some good advice
Mhm.
and wouldn't listen to that advice. Yet, I've learned that it doesn't matter if someone else doesn't believe in me.
Right.
I do believe in me, and I believe in what I'm doing and where I'm going and where I'm heading,
Mhm.
you know? And being, patience is a wonderful thing as well,
Yeah.
in the sense of, you're always, you're creating your reality, you're creating your future right now with the decisions that you're making today, the choices that you're making today. And the way I like to describe it is sort of like, the old song, "It's your party and you can cry if you want to."
Hmm.
Right? So this is your party. Your life is your party. Your business is your party.
Right.
And when it's your party, you get to invite the people that you want to invite.
Hmm.
You get to choose the venue that you want to choose. You get to choose the music that you want. You get to choose the food that you want there. You get to choose all of those things. It is your party.
Hmm.
And you can choose to as well cry if you want to when, stuff happens. I remember when after I opened my first retail shop,
Right.
which was a souvenir shop. It was a souvenir shop. Malta based, bases a lot of its economy on tourism.
Hmm.
And I opened a souvenir shop. I knew that business already because I was involved in a partnership previous to that was involved in the souvenir business, but I decided to move out completely on myself. And as a side note, I want to mention here as well, I moved out on my own because I recognized that some of the values that were really important to me in that partnership where I was before were starting to be compromised. There was some stuff going on that I wasn't aligned with. And I'm mentioning this as a side note because values are extremely important when it comes to entrepreneurship and your life,
Hmm.
and recognizing what your values are. And I'll leave that to the side for a tiny bit. But coming back, I opened my first retail shop in the year 2000. I managed to open it peak season, August 2000. So man, it's almost 24 years ago now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's flying
I
by.
know, like crazy.
I was
And I got it open. Now,
greater than, man. Yeah, that's
pardon me?
yeah. No, I remember being in fifth grade then, and right the whole 2000 took
But
me
I
back.
I I knew from the first day,
Hmm.
like I had done my homework on the location and I had observed the place and there was a lot of passing trade. Yet I knew from the first day that it was going to be a good shop. It was going to be a good retail shop. It wasn't a huge shop,
Hmm.
but on the first day, I wasn't even completely open. I was still setting the place up. I just had a bunch of postcard racks outside.
Right.
And on the first day, I sold probably the equivalent of about, I don't know, $250 worth of postcards.
Hmm.
And these postcards were being sold at like, 10 cents and 15 cents. I was
Right.
like, okay, we're going to do well. I'm good. And
Postcard.
it was a very successful first year.
Hmm.
Now, 2001, we had Twin Towers.
Right.
1 year later. And I say this all the time. I say, you know what? I literally looked up to the sky.
Hmm.
And again, I say this, I would never have ever wanted that to happen ever. I would never. But I did look up to the sky and I said, could you at least let me have 5 years? Not
Right.
just 1 year, right? Because it was
Yeah.
a good year. And I was like,
Okay.
5 years of this, we're going to be pretty good. We'll be in a strong position.
Yeah.
So again, and this is another important point I'll make is change, adapting.
Hmm.
Adapting is one of the core pillars of my ARC method.
Right.
Adapting is so critical in entrepreneurship because change at some point in time is going to happen.
Right. So you already just kind of mentioned it because given the lessons that you've been through, now you developed your own company, your own, organization in which you call it's the art method, right?
Well, the ARC method is a method I use which intertwines any type of training I do, whether I'm going to work with someone one-on-one, whether they're going to work in one of my programs, online program, it's
Right.
intertwined there. So that's a particular method. The company as such is called Mindset Malta. So
Right.
the
That's
company
what
is called
I
Mindset Malta. The
eventually.
ARC method is something that is intertwined there. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
So kind of walk us through well, first of all, how you started it, but then also the programming of it in case there are plenty of business owners that are listening in now that
Yeah.
would be interested or want to figure out how they can develop the mindset because that to me, Ken, is the hardest piece of entrepreneurship. It's actually unlearning so much of the nonsense that you've had to hear your entire life about it, about how we're sort of negative, how there's a negative connotation with money and success and all that, to the point where some people just kind of don't even want to do it. And the getting people's mind wrapped around that you're doing a good thing, wanting to create jobs is a good thing. The government wants people like you to create jobs. That's why we see the situation we see right now with our government, is because there's a connection between the business owner and the politician. The business owner is creating jobs. The politician is selling the fact that they're part of creating jobs. So there's a natural connection there. And it all starts in here. It all starts with mindset and how you do it. So,
Yeah.
speak to us about your programming and how you're able
Sure.
to do all that stuff.
Absolutely. And you're hitting the nail on the head in the sense of, you mentioned the unlearning. So so the ARC method, and I can go through there's
Yeah, no.
5 pillars, and the first pillar is awareness.
Mhm.
Now, originally I started off talking about awareness and saying how, it is about learning. It is
Right.
about learning. Yet another really important component of awareness is exactly what you said. It is the unlearning.
Mhm.
It is the unlearning. Because, like I said before as well, you've been taught stuff. Anybody listening here, as an entrepreneur, you've been taught certain things. You've been brought up. You've been programmed. And again, not because someone had a bad intention or anything like that. Far from it. Yet, your parents passed on stuff to you that
Right.
were certain programs, that some of them really great ones, and some of them potentially not the greatest, potentially very unresourceful. And this is what I like to say. A lot of individuals, entrepreneurs included here, have been fooled,
Mhm.
to believe certain things. Like I was saying before as well, the fact that, when I was talking about the sacrifice, the struggle, the stress, the suffering, for a
Mhm.
lot of entrepreneurs, you attend any entrepreneurial event. And yes, these stories we listen to about the guy who, ended up down in the dumps and then pulled themselves out and all that, they're great stories.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. And they can be very inspirational stories as well. It doesn't mean that you have to go through that yourself as well. Yet
Right.
so many entrepreneurs have associated struggling, sacrifice, all these things with success. So now it's become a belief. And because it's become such a strong belief, because you hear it over and over, hey, if you're going to get into entrepreneurship, be prepared to sacrifice. Well, what exactly does that mean? You mean my life doesn't exist?
Right.
Like I don't have a life outside my business?
Right.
That I can't have relationships? Yes, there's going to be times when you're going to be putting in a certain, let's say, a little more time into your business because you're building it up.
Right.
Yet, if there's one thing that I could suggest to entrepreneurs to understand is this. Let's reverse it. Let's give them tons of value here. Let's give your listeners immense value. If they get this one thing,
A perfect example would be what I'm doing right. For you, it's 12 o'clock. For me, it's close to 7 a.m. in the
yeah,
morning. I'm not feeling like I'm working. This is exactly
yeah, this is
what I would
like,
want to be doing. I'm up at this hour regardless. So it's not
yeah,
sacrificing. No, this is what I set the calendar link for this because I'm up at this hours, So
and you're up now. What you start to do as well is this, because you could make a decision at some time as one, you could make a decision at some point and say, you know what, I'm going to choose to do my podcast
Mhm.
between these hours and these hours because these are the hours that I want to be working. You
Mhm.
can choose that, right?
Exactly.
And this is what's important, is that as an entrepreneur, you want to start by deciding how you want to design your life.
Hmm.
What do you want your life to look like? So you decide the hours you'd like to be working, how much you would like to be earning, the type of people you'd like to be surrounded by, whatever it is, the way you want your life to be.
Hmm.
And then you begin to design your work, let's call it work, your business.
Right.
You just begin to design your business so that it intertwines into the way you are designing your life. Yet so many entrepreneurs do it the reverse.
Hmm.
They go for their business, which is phenomenal, and they're building this amazing business.
Yeah.
And now they find that they've gone down a rabbit hole and their life has to intertwine according to what their business is dictating.
Yeah.
And this is where it starts to get a little bit screwed up because now this isn't freedom.
Exactly.
Now you've started to trap yourself.
Right.
So having the awareness about this, and starting to learn and starting to unlearn some of the crap that you've been taught.
Right.
Like, that is not the truth. Now, you can leave it the truth if you want to. That's okay. I would never take that away from you. Whatever is true to you is real to you. And the thing is this, as you become more and more aware of this, you realize that the life outside of you, the world outside of you, is only a reflection of your beliefs.
Right.
Because your mind is gonna look for justification so you can go, you see, I was right. Business is difficult. Business is hard. Look at all the sacrifice. It's going to look for that. It's going to justify it for you. So awareness is the first pillar. The second pillar, which we've already mentioned, is adapting, which is about change. And if there's anything about change that I can say to make it really easy, is learning about embracing change. Because the quicker you learn to embrace change and not resist it, the easier it is going to be for you to accept change and say things have changed. I can use a phenomenal example. As you know, Aswan, last week I got a phone call. My mom fell. She had a stroke. My life changed in a second.
Absolutely.
My life changed in a second. When I say my life changed in a second, my routines changed in a second.
Yeah.
My routines needed to change. I needed to now adapt, shift, pivot, and change some things in my life so that my routine can work around whatever is necessary at this point in time. Thankfully, she's making an awesome recovery, and still some routines have changed. Yet I was ready for that. I was ready for that potentially, that could happen. And I didn't go, oh no, what am I going to do now? I can't do this, and I can't do this, or I can't do that. And I used to do this, but now I get, no, it's like, okay, how do we work the best with this so we make the best of this so that we make it work for everybody?
Yeah, actually, the guest I had on before you, shout out to Janine. She had a son who fell and hit his head, and immediately he had learning disabilities. I think she said his left hand was shut down, all this stuff. And I asked her, look, I can understand you going into this place of pity, or why me, why me? And she responded, as long as it's like, I never felt that place. I immediately jumped into it and said, look, I got to be the mom. I got to be the leader. There's no time for that self-pity at all. And that's what you're touching on when it comes to change, is you don't have time to wallow in your self-pity, and it happens based on the way you practice now, not when the actual thing occurs. You got to be practicing these things now, because again, change
it's practice
within a blink of an eye.
And it can happen like in the most. So we took a bit of an, like you were mentioning with the Janine, like this, it's more of an extreme case, right? And in my case, not extreme yet. This you can subtly practice this every day, because you're interacting with people, and suddenly someone, let's say, decides to say something, and it let's say it rubs you the wrong way.
Yes.
Now you can decide to react in a certain way. Or you can say, oh, wait a second, let me look at this other person's perspective here and see where they're coming from. Hold on. And it doesn't matter. We both can have a different perspective and both be right. It's okay. Right. So this can go, and like you said, it's practice on a daily basis. If that's another thing, like, it's practice on a daily basis when it comes to personal development. And the amazing practice really and truly is in the everyday life, because things come up and things need to be changed. As simple as you're heading somewhere and that road's under construction and you need to take a different route.
Very true. Very true.
As simple as that. You could get really ticked off because you got to take another route, or you can say, okay, what's the best way to get to where I want to get to?
Exactly.
And it's a great parallel to look at for your life. So adapting, change, inevitable. It is, cliche as it is, it's the one constant.
Right. So
pillar number 3. Go ahead.
No. I was going to ask you what the third pillar was.
So pillar number 3 is alignment. And alignment, absolutely crucial. It's all about, to me, alignment is about inspiration and how to actually begin to understand how to receive inspiration. Again, another challenge for so many entrepreneurs is that we're chasing the goals, we're chasing the accolades, we're chasing the accomplishments, and all of these wonderful things that we want to achieve, that people want to achieve, which are absolutely amazing. Nothing wrong in that. Absolutely agree 100%. Yet, what if there was an easier way than chasing?
Yeah. That's
What
good.
if you could actually start to bring it to you?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where alignment comes in, because it's about inspiration. And I tie very much quiet time into this.
Yeah.
Okay, one of the first things I have to do with entrepreneurs is say, listen, man, you gotta slow down.
Yeah.
I gotta get you to, like, I get it. They've taught you to go fast.
Yeah.
People have taught you, if you got to go fast, because if you're not going fast enough, someone else is going to get there before you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's this proverbial pie of abundance that seems to be limited somehow. And that's just all coming from a lack mindset, a lack mentality.
Yes.
Entrepreneurs listening, there's enough out there for everybody. Trust me, there's more than enough out there for you. If
Yeah.
you take a slice of, if you take a piece, a slice of abundance away from this pie of abundance, you're left with abundance.
Yeah.
It
Also
never finishes.
on that point of alignment, my shout out to my cousin Kieran because growing up, he grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I was in Maryland, but he was kind of like the older brother. I love my sister very much, but he was the older brother that I
Yeah.
kind of had in the family, and he would love to dress. I mean, styling, jeans, closet on point. And I
Yeah.
remember when he first started his urban clothing brand called Jumper Status. He's working at an airport. He first started, he looks at me, he goes, "Yo, cuz, how long you know me and how much I like to dress? Now I have my own line of clothing." So it wasn't a matter of him jumping out and trying to do something else. It's like, this is what I've been doing for my entire life. Now you look up Jumper Status, urban wear, it's the number one clothing brand. When you actually Google it and you see it actually being a brand, it was in some stores and things like that. And the important thing is it didn't feel like work to him. It's just him aligning the things that he actually already wanted to do. And if he has the ability, anybody has the ability to do that. But you got to tune in. You got to make sure the things you love to do, the things that you're naturally drawn to, align it with a business, a way of doing things, and the business idea will come to you. I love how you say you got to slow down with it. Because if you don't slow down, you start looking outwardly, externally. I think you mentioned that on the previous show, but you look externally
Yeah.
for validation. And that's where you run into a whole lot of problems because if
Yeah,
he's a
absolutely.
Sean John or a Rockaware or, let's no, you can name the clothing. If he's looking outwardly to guess whatever the clothing brand is, if he's looking there, there's a problem. He's got to be looking at himself so he could, again, this is what I
Yeah.
know,
And
stylish and things
yeah.
like that. So
And it's about what you're mentioning as well, is about he's being authentic to himself.
exactly. All right.
He's being true to himself,
Mhm.
believing in himself, believing in the line that he has,
Mhm.
irrespective of what other people are doing.
Right.
This is being true to himself, and that's that alignment. And the thing is this, and I'll leave with alignment, is with the quiet time.
Mhm.
This is where you actually allow yourself to receive the ideas, to receive the inspiration. So when you actually slow yourself down, what you're doing is just slowing down your thinking.
Mhm.
So I like to call it quiet time. You can tie in meditation into there as well. And it's just a matter of like really just slowing down. And this is why so many people get great ideas, at the end of a day, they just walk into the shower, just going to take a shower, and all of a sudden a great idea pops in
Mhm.
because they actually slowed themselves down. Now,
Mhm.
what if you imagine you learned to actually do that purposefully
On purpose.
every single day?
Yeah.
The ideas, the solutions, that they start to come.
Mhm.
The people's names will pop into your head, and you
Mhm.
go, someone's name pops in your head, and you go, oh, let me give them a call. And then miraculously, they say, oh, you called at the right time
Right.
because I need this, or whatever it is, and it's so learning how to actually truly align is where you're going to receive the inspiration. And that is going to be crucial because it's going to save you a ton of time.
Right.
It's going to make your business flow so much more easy. It's not about pushing against things and chasing things anymore.
Gotta be in that.
Now it's things are flowing.
Right.
And it makes it so much easier. It's practice, like anything else, it's practice.
Right.
So that's pillar number 3.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We have, I want to make sure we're getting this on the record. So we have, first of all, awareness, adapt, alignment, and then number 4 would be what?
Number 4 is applying. So applying, a lot of people will naturally go to action. So it's about action and taking the action. Yet for me, it is no longer about the action. I tie this in with pillar number 3. It's about inspired action. Because I've discovered that there's a significant difference between just taking action and taking inspired action. And the way I like to say this is, for those of you listening, watching, potentially, you know someone who's really busy doing nothing. There are people out there that are really busy.
Where I'm
just,
at this,
they're always busy, though.
Yeah,
always busy. Like,
to do.
I call up someone, like I live on an island that's 120 square miles, right? So I can be anywhere pretty well, maximum half an hour, but usually 15 minutes I can be. So I can call up a friend and say, hey, listen, let's get together for a coffee or a drink and let's have a little chat. And then we can have a little chat, get back to our work, whatever it is.
Right.
Some people you call and you want to, and they're like, yeah, I can get together in 3 months' time. Like, dude, man, you can't find half an hour in 3 months available. Like, you're that busy. No, I get it. It can happen, but I mean, and there's a lot of people busy doing it. And the reason is, for a lot of people, because feeling busy means that they're actually important and doing something. And it's an external validation, like we were talking about, right? Look, I'm so busy, like, okay, I must be doing something right.
There's a lot of that.
Well, in actual fact, they're probably doing a lot of unnecessary work. And that's where the inspired action ties in. Like I was saying, people's names pop in your head, ideas come to you, and you take action on that inspiration, on those ideas. And again, it ties in with the flow, just makes things a lot more smoother. So there's a significant difference.
Right.
And then the last pillar.
Well, before you get to the last one, I'm curious now is, how do you advise people with this beast that we call social media, in which you can be distracted by applying your work to something that has there's so much information, you got to figure out what's for you and how do you filter that out?
Okay, so how do you filter that out? Again, this is going to depend on a number of factors. So like, again, even according to, we're going to have to take it back to what a person's beliefs are. I mean, social media is there. Exactly. Like, no one's going to take it away.
It's not going anywhere.
But I remind people that you have a choice. So, well, let's come back to, it's your party and you decide if you want to cry or not, right? It's your party. So no one can tell me, because the social media is affecting me, or it's not the social media that's affecting you. You allowing the social media to affect you because you've made a decision. So I go on social media, yet I'm very selective. I'm selective of what, like, I am not going to tap into something that is going to make me feel bad. I'm just not going to. It's not my preference. I can choose to
recognize like how he reversed that. It's not social media. It's you and how you're using. So it's you. It's you. I want to make sure. I don't want you to brush over that point. It's you and how you are.
It's a choice.
Creator. Yeah, it's your choice.
Like, no one's holding a gun up to your head and saying, "Hey, listen, you got to be scrolling and you got to be watching this."
Yeah.
You're choosing, but you're choosing according to your beliefs. So people don't to your beliefs, in the sense that if you feel that you're going to get gratification, if you want that external validation and you need to see that you got, how many thousand likes on your post, and you need that external validation,
it's on you.
That's an external validation. That doesn't mean that you need it. You have decided that you need it, and that by getting that external validation, you now think, okay, I'm good enough now.
Exactly.
What I say, and I just want to mention this, the people that I help, the entrepreneurs that I help, and I recently was working on this because I was delving into, what are these core elements of entrepreneurs, some of the stuff that entrepreneurs suffer from the most. And I'll use the word suffer, or let's use suffer from the most. And it's this, and I came up with this. So I help self-doubting entrepreneurs who feel like they're not good enough to escape the mindset of uncertainty. And by using my ARC method, they discover the power of mindset and restore their inner worth.
Absolutely.
Because for so many entrepreneurs and individuals, because, you know, I focus on entrepreneurs. The fact of the matter is, I truly believe that pretty well everybody is an entrepreneur. And I'll tell you why everybody's an entrepreneur. Because you're in this business called life.
Yeah.
Right? You're in this business called life. And when we boil it down, you know, why do people go on social media and need that gratification? Because they're doubting themselves. They're uncertain whether, you know what, am I good enough?
Right.
But wait, if someone hits a like or comments something really nice, now I can go, I'm good enough. Look.
Right.
Oh, look at me. Look at the like. People are liking me.
Right.
Now, I want to make something very clear. It's wonderful to get some external gratification. There is nothing wrong with that. Like, it's nice when someone, I don't know, happened to see me on a program or on a pod and recognize me and say, hey, listen, I really enjoyed it. Thanks for the message, whatever. That's wonderful. It makes me feel good. I feel like, okay, I'm doing something good out there. I'm having an impact. The key is this, is not to be attached to it.
Exactly.
So if you're not attached to it, whether you get it or not, you're good enough.
Exactly.
Irrespective of the results that you're getting right now in your business, you're good enough. Your worthiness, if you really want to be free, if you really want to have true freedom in your life, one of the components, another component, we said you really don't need to care about what people are thinking. And another one is the fact of the matter is this, is that you understand, you come to a point where you realize your worthiness is never, ever, ever compromised. I don't care if you're living in a gutter. I don't care if you're living in a palace. I don't care if you ride around on a bicycle. I don't care if you have a Lamborghini.
Right.
Your worthiness never compromised.
Very
Yet
true.
so many people, and this is where they get caught up in the social media. They need that gratification. They need to see that people are saying, okay,
right.
I like what he's saying. I like what she's saying. I like what he's wearing. I like what she's, whatever. But when you come to a point where it really doesn't matter, the freedom, the weight that is lifted off your shoulders through the roof. That's how I deal with the social media stuff.
Well, it is important that you do give that distinction. But number one, it's not going anywhere. But number two, don't get so attached to it to the point you start feeling like your self-worth is wrapped up in likes.
That's it.
All those kinds of things. So I think that's a perfect segue into what the final pillar would be.
And the final pillar, absolutely. And and it ties in nicely, like you're saying, is allowing. And allowing is all about trust. Trusting yourself, trusting in others. I was just having this discussion this morning, you know, with my dad. We bumped into someone, really nice guy, he's a security guard, really nice guy, knows how to keep rapport with people and be nice and all of this. And I reminded my dad, you know, I said, you know what? The majority of people are really good people. The majority of people are really good people, especially when you decide that the majority of people are really good people and that you can trust other people and trust yourself. Now, obviously, you know, there are parameters without a doubt. Yet then on top of that, it's also about trusting. Call it whatever you'd like to call it. So some people will call it the divine. Some people will call it source. Some people will call it God. Some people will call it Allah. I like to call it the umami self.
Right.
What do I mean by that? In the food world, umami is when you eat something that it tastes so good, there's no words to describe it. In fact, the definition of umami is the essence of deliciousness. So the umami self,
Hmm.
I coined this, the
Take it.
umami self.
Yeah, take it. If you ever heard no one else say it, you take it.
No, I've coined it. Like
Yeah,
I want people to use it.
yeah,
The umami self is the essence of deliciousness of who you truly are.
right.
And this is the tapping in, the alignment. When you start to recognize who you really are, there's nothing missing. You're
Hmm.
aligned, your health, your wealth, your spirituality, your all that's it's all there for you. Yet it's learning to trust that the process is unfolding
Hmm.
perfectly for you always, even when it appears, and I use this word on purpose, appears not to be
Hmm.
in that moment. But it only appears not to be in that moment because you still don't have the full picture of what's to come.
Right. And well, first of all, it's an incredible concept. When I want to make sure we're getting this on the record, we're talking awareness, we're talking adapting, we're talking alignment, we're talking action, and we're talking now awareness again, right?
Allowing. So applying was the action, the inspired action, and
So
then
allowing and
allowing the trust.
wearing it's interesting because those are two, like, really this kind of a synergy between those two, but the pillar coming in, it's like allowing and wearing, you have to get through those. And as
Yeah.
I want to be respectful of your time, but this is just something we could talk about for hours. But when it comes to the work that you do with entrepreneurs and how you walk them through that system, can you just provide some examples for business owners in terms of what have been the results and what have been the trials and tribulations when you're walking them through that system? Because again, like I said, I think there's a reason I kind of mixed up on that. Allowing an awareness, they can be very confusing, but when you put the other three pillars with the adapting, aligning, and taking action, it clears things up. It
Yeah.
sort of clears things up, but I'll
And
let
it,
you kind of speak on that.
yeah, and it's absolutely about creating clarity.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what the biggest challenge is, the way I see it, as the biggest challenge for entrepreneurs when it comes to mindset.
Hmm.
It's not learning the processes and getting through those processes. That's not an issue, really. Once the entrepreneur has made the decision. The biggest challenge is what I call the triple U syndrome. And
Mm.
U being the letter U. And what do I mean by that? Because when you talk to an entrepreneur and you start to talk to them about mindset, and we talk about mindset, and most entrepreneurs have heard something about mindset. Most individuals nowadays have heard about mindset in one way or another,
Right.
yet they still have not realized how powerful it actually is, how it actually is crucial to everything, that it actually is their superpower. Yet, the way entrepreneurs have been taught for the most part is they're very much about the physical aspect of their businesses. So, what do I mean by that? They're very concerned about all the tasks that need to be taken place while they're going about their business. And there are plenty,
Mhm.
and they need to be preparing the business plan and all the budgets and all this and cash flows, and they need to be doing this, and the sales need to be doing this, and all these wonderful things that are part of your business. I get it. So what happens? It's the first U of the triple U syndrome. They underrate mindset. You know what? One day I'll get to it. I heard this guy Ken, and as one on a podcast, and it was really interesting information. Seems really, you know what? But right now I have this list of stuff that I need to be doing in my business. One day I'll come to it. I'll look into that mindset stuff, and they just put it on the back burner.
That day doesn't come, but you got.
Yeah, they just put it there, right, man? They go, okay, I'll come to it. Wait, one day. So they underrate it.
Mhm.
It's no, and it's no different. I like to equate it to this. Have you, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, Oswan. Have you ever bought a book, but just didn't get around to reading it or took a long time to getting around to reading it?
Plenty
It's
of them.
there on the shelf, right?
Quite a
You
few.
just need to pull down that book
Hmm.
and start opening it and reading it. It's right there. Same thing with mindset because the information is available. You know,
Hmm.
I'm not telling you, I'm not saying anything new to anybody who's listening. I might be saying it in a little bit of a different way that might resonate with someone who's listening or not. That's okay. So I'm not saying anything new. The information's there. There's more information available to you today than
Fantastic.
my grandparents could have had in a lifetime. In one day, you could have as much information as my grandparents could have available in a lifetime. That's a
Right.
lot of information, which can be overwhelming for some people,
Yeah.
but it's there.
Yeah.
You just got to pull that book off the shelf. You just got to start learning. And because of that underrating, the
Mhm.
second you is they're underestimating it. They're underestimating the power of it as
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
So it just get now, for those listening, I want to let you off the hook. Because let me tell you why you're doing that. You're doing it simply because your belief is not strong enough yet.
Right.
Your belief and mindset is not strong enough. Because if you knew 100% that if you started delving into personal development and mindset, that it was going to affect every single result and experience in your life to the point that you begin designing that,
Hmm.
you would dedicate time to it every single day.
Exactly.
And because you're underrating it and because you're underestimating it, the last you is you're underutilizing it. And I'm going to add something to that very quickly. You're not underutilizing it on its own. You're underutilizing it purposefully.
Right.
Because whether you like it or not,
Mhm.
you're using your mindset. You're just unaware. You're just doing it haphazardly, not even knowing. And that is the biggest challenge when it comes to entrepreneurs is getting them to the point where they go, I want to really dedicate the time to this and what it deserves.
Right.
And that is the biggest challenge with entrepreneurs for them to go, okay, it's time for me to invest in myself, invest in the time to dedicate to mindset the way it truly deserves.
Yeah, and that it kind of goes back to the points we were making earlier about unlearning certain things and not putting your mindset first because that point of it is where the self-development world that's kind of taking that first step into the self-development world. So
Yeah.
with that, can you kind of just speak on what's next? How can people get in touch with you and
Sure.
kind of put all that stuff out there? So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that want to get in touch with you, especially after the ones that have stayed with us throughout the entire episode. So go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, they can follow me on Instagram. They just have to look for Mindset Malta or Facebook as well, Mindset Malta. I'm on LinkedIn, Ken Attard. And I also want to offer anybody who's listening here, I have a free short online program that they can go to. They can simply go to growth, the number four, entrepreneurs.com. And there they can find a little more information about myself, but they can also register for this free online program. It's 100% free. And the way I've set up that program, they potentially can also interact with me personally through that program, but they need to go there to see how they can do that.
Okay.
So that's definitely there. And if someone wants to send me an email, by all means, they can send it to Ken at mindsetmalta.com.
And you're active on LinkedIn as well too. So
Yeah, very active on LinkedIn as well, posting very, very regularly. So people can contact me there as well. No problem whatsoever.
absolutely, absolutely. And the final thing I do, Ken, with all the guests to close out this show is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You are back to being that 15-year-old, 14-year-old boy. You just moved from Canada. There's no more hockey in your life. You got to figure something out. Pretend that teenage Ken has come into the Zoom room. Give him some words of encouragement, and we'll officially close.
Really easy. And I give this to everybody. Remember to laugh a lot more, especially when you can laugh at yourself.
Amen to that. The mic is officially dropping. Very rarely, by the way, Ken, on this show, do I am left with nothing else to say, but you have covered, I mean, so many boundaries, so many things. I feel like I could probably talk for another hour, but it is important for you guys who are listeners, especially business owners, man. Laugh, enjoy the journey. It's gonna be a lot of ups and downs, but just love, know in your heart what you're doing is something that's genuine to you, and you'll see there's light at the end of the tunnel. So all that being said, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.